Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Derby Homes annual general meeting for 2020. A welcome to two people who are joining us actually in the meeting, Councillor Poulter and Rachel North, but also a very big welcome to anybody who is following us on YouTube. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. Please bear with us if things don't work absolutely perfectly. I don't actually know if I'm speaking to anybody out there. I won't know, but I really hope that this is a good initiative and that we're going to find it interesting. We will now start the AGM, and Paul, if you'd like to put up the agenda, please. Right. This, you see in front of you the agenda for the meeting. We'll go through this. Most of it will be shown on the screen as we say it there, but we'll say please bear with us. So item 1 is annual awards. So Paul, if we could move on to that, and I'll hand over to Maria Murphy. Maria, you there?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have this pleasure every year to actually do my two favourite items at the annual general meeting. The first of these is the Partnership Award, and this award recognises the work of a former Derby Homes board member, Lionel Massingham, who sadly passed away back in 2006. Each year our staff are asked to nominate partner organisations who they feel have worked well with us over the past year, and those nominations are then judged by a panel of staff and board member. This year, as always, we had some high quality nominations, but I am personally thrilled to announce this year's winner as Derby City Mission. Derby City Mission are a key partner in the delivery of the rough sleeping strategy. Previously having led on the delivery of the church's night shelter for many years and coordinating an absolute army of volunteers that have worked tirelessly to support some of the most vulnerable people in our city. They've shown great commitment this year to supporting the needs of homeless people during the coronavirus pandemic, reacting quickly and without hesitation, diverting their resources in late March to support people placed at the Holiday Inn Express, and more latterly again moving their staff to Milestone House to work directly with us to provide a COVID secure overnight provision for vulnerable people. Right, sorry about that. I think you can all see me now. Derby City Mission continue to support Derby Homes and the Council to deliver against the objectives set out in the citywide rough sleeping strategy to eradicate rough sleeping in Derby. Without the support and flexibility and commitment from them, we would find it more difficult to deliver our ambitious plans for a better future for vulnerable citizens. Now, with this being a virtual AGM, I do have the award here, which is glass, and you're going to have to trust me, it's beautiful, but you can't really see it. But I would like to invite Julio Abraham, the Chief Executive from Derby City Mission, to say a few words.
Wow, thank you so much, Maria. We obviously do not do any of our work to get any recognition, but to get this validation from a partner like Derby Homes and the Council is incredible for us. I think our volunteers, as you said, we got an army of volunteers, 500 of them. Our staff, I think we got close to 58 actually with our night shelters this year. And indeed, under the leadership of Phil Morton, who is our head of crisis, we have seen a dedicated staff team, especially with safe space in the night shelters. And we are so thrilled and delighted. In fact, I've been enraptured for the past 3-4 days thinking, wow. So all I can say is thanks to the staff and the volunteers, and our board are delighted as well to be receiving this award. Thank you so much.
No, I think the thanks, Julio, are all from us to you and your wonderful team. Is Phil Morton with you?
Phil is online, yeah.
Is he
I don't
online?
know where he is, but he's online somewhere.
I am
Phil,
here.
would you like to just say a few words about your experience whilst based at the Holiday Inn Express? Because you were there on the front line.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think we're just really appreciative of this award and for the recognition that it brings. We recognise that there is no way any of us are going to be able to tackle the issues that we've got in our city without partnership. And Derby City Mission certainly sees that. And I think the time we spent at the hotel, especially working with Derby Homes, but other agencies as well, we were just able to expand the work of the safe space that we've been running to be able to cater for a lot more people. I think we saw in total over the few months being able to offer overnight accommodation to 141 different people who otherwise wouldn't have had anywhere to stay. And it obviously came with a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities and probably lots of stories that I can't really talk about at Derby Homes AGM.
And we came away with a lot of learning, didn't we?
We did. But I think one of the main learning things was actually when we come together and we work together, we can achieve an awful lot. And I think we saw that then. And a lot of those practices we've looked to carry on as well across the city.
Thanks. Thank you, Phil and Julio. And
Maria, just one little thing, Maria.
Yeah.
I got a call one time from some media outlet.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to say something negative about Derby City Council, Derby Homes. I said, why would I say that? These are one of our greatest partner, and they've been supporting us all this long. I said, you guys clearly don't understand how it works. These are our partners. They're part of the family. So that was the end of that. So thank you.
Julio, that is so kind of you. It really is. And just so everybody is aware, I have got the award. I am going to put it on the floor now, so I do not knock it off this tiny little desk. And I'm actually meeting Julio on Monday.
Yeah.
So I will take it along with me and we'll have a socially distanced photograph.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You very, very much.
Maria, would it be possible just to say a few words?
Absolutely.
Chris Poulter. I just wanted to address Julio and Phil on this subject because it's something that absolutely highlights how relevant this award is, because it's called the Partnership Award. And this year's events have highlighted massively the importance of partnership working, and they've made a massive contribution in this regard. Small world as it is, my partner's mum is Noreen Massingham, whose husband Lionel Massingham is this in memory of. Noreen was intending being with us here today, but unfortunately she's got some expert gas engineers fitting a new boiler for her and doing an excellent job, I might say, Maria. But as I say, Julio and Phil, it's a perfect example of if there's been any positives that's come out of this pandemic for the city. One of the biggest advantages has been how we've seen partner agencies come together in a fantastic way to pull together to do what's necessary for the city and its residents. And no greater example than our response and your response to the need to get people all in and off the streets. The way that we dealt with, and you were the first in terms of getting people off the streets, taking up the opportunity to house them in the hotel. Yes, there were challenges, but absolutely, you know, you've gained national recognition with ministers and government about how it was dealt with. So it was done in an exemplary way. And as a result of that, the award of this Lionel Massingham Partnership Award 2020 to yourselves is absolutely fully deserved. And on behalf of the council, thank you very much for your efforts and continued efforts, because we're going into another phase and we're going to have to still respond and maybe gear some of this up again. But again, the recognition's more than deserved. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. I don't think we could be in a better place, actually. If we have to go forward and we have to tackle things again, I think, as Councillor Poulter's just said, we've got the perfect partners there to work with. I'm now going to move on to my next favourite bit, which actually looks at the staff of Derby Homes. They are what makes us Derby Homes great. Now, each year we normally have a bit of a poll on who is our Bright Star of the Year, and we do a presentation that goes through all of the individuals that have been nominated and stood out. Well, we all know this year's been different, and we actually only had a couple of nominations coming in before everything got tipped upside down. We had in November a nomination for Rebecca Marron, who is there on the screen on the far left. Rebecca is the manager of our private rented sector team, and she absolutely demonstrated thinking outside of the box at its absolute best when she managed to negotiate a holiday let with a private lettings company for 3 months until a young homeless gentleman would turn 18. Very, very challenging, but Rebecca used a lot of skills and imagination, but solved a problem there that could have seen a young and vulnerable person really, really put into a worse position. In December, the gentleman next to Rebecca, the rather hairy gentleman actually next to Rebecca, is Craig Reynolds, who works down at Mildstone House. Now, Mildstone House, for those of you that have visited, you will know it is our temporary accommodation provision for homeless couples and single people. Now, each Christmas we try to give residents the best Christmas that they can have, and the team give out Christmas cards to all of the residents. Craig, though, took the extra time to research a couple that we've got as residents who were from East Africa, and he tailored the card to fit in with their personal religious beliefs. There was a different Christmas date. He matched the Ethiopian cross that they wore and even translated it, and please forgive me because I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but he translated it into Tigriana. And that isn't even on Google Translate. So how on earth he did it, I don't know. But I personally think that Craig demonstrated equalities at its absolute best. The two lovely ladies on the right of the screen are Chloe Parker and Sam Juna. Again, this was a recognition for the work that they put in, again, around the Christmas period. Both of them helped with the additional organisation, coordination and delivery of a massive 96 hampers. And that is done under the banner of Christmas Lunch on Jesus. We made referrals to St Peter's Church, who again are another group that we work very closely with. It was the biggest number of referrals that we have ever put in. And between them, Chloe and Sam made sure all of them got their hampers. I believe some of the final ones were delivered on Christmas Eve, but the two girls were absolutely determined that no one was going to miss out on Christmas dinner. Now, as we all know, February things started to change, and it's probably very remiss, but we didn't actually remember to deal with the nominations. But actually, we didn't need to, because each and every one of our staff shone brightly all the way through the first wave of the pandemic. And so that I can give you just a little flavour of how bright they all are, there's some pictures there of just some of our staff. So difficult because you know you're going to miss people out and they're going to be upset. But a quick recap. Overnight, our amazing customer service team became virtual. They literally did go home from London Road and carried on the service from home. Massive achievement by them, and also by our IT colleagues in the council, and of course the wonderful Kathy, who worked very closely with us to make sure our service was uninterrupted. The trades teams, the guys that are out and about daily, maintained an essential repair service all the way through from day one. And colleagues again within the trades team never stopped getting homes ready for occupation, which was so important for us. Unsung heroes very often are our estates response team, better known to you and I as caretakers, but they've got a fancy job title now. That team, I can absolutely testify, were out every day doing anything and everything that was asked of them. They worked alongside Street Pride, they helped reduce the amount of fly tipping problems we had on our estates, and generally were just there to support the communities. The health and safety team at Derby Homes deserve singling out because they absolutely led from the front, from day one. They made sure we were safe, they made sure we'd got PPE, and actually they helped me enormously by keeping on top of the ever-evolving guidance that just seemed to come day in and day out. But they really came into their own. The procurement team and the accounts teams, again, we never hear much about them, they're back office teams. But they were the people that found ways to enable us to respond swiftly to the challenges that came in day after day. To the housing management teams, including the amazing team down at Parklands View, between them they supported over 4,000 tenants. And our amazing income team, again, you don't hear much about them, but they have been there. They've supported people who've got financial worries, and they'll carry on doing that as we move forward. The teams that we actually have just referenced, working day and night with our homeless customers. They've been there and they've made sure that everyone had safe shelter and support to move forward. And I honestly would say the effort that goes in for the support moving forward is phenomenal. Nearly there. Over the 100 staff or more that responded to my basically begging emails, asking people to volunteer. Over 100 Derby Homes staff volunteered to come forward, and they helped out across a range of services, from patrolling the cemeteries to helping out at the crematorium to working on the bins. I mean, never before have people had so much respect for the people that work on our refuse collection. But yes, thank you to that 100 staff that helped on that, and also the community hub. And finally, to each and every person that works for us behind the scenes, our really important support staff. Without them, we could not deliver on the front line. So please don't think you're forgotten. You are just as important as everyone else. Now, I kind of feel that a thank you doesn't seem enough, but it's a genuine thank you. And I want all of our colleagues to know that the board, the senior management team and members of the council sincerely give their heartfelt thanks to them for going above and beyond for Derby, ultimately keeping our customers safe and potentially saving lives. So it's been a phenomenal effort. Just a big thank you. And as a gesture, our staff have agreed that, because normally there is a financial recognition for the overall Bright Star of the year, our staff have decided that this year that financial reward will go to the charity of the year. Wow. So there's some more good work by our staff. So that's me done, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Paul, could you just flag up that slide on the charity of the year? just so that we know what they are. Thank you very much.
There we go. That is the charity of the year, again voted for by our staff. It's actually in memory of one of our staff, and I don't want to get emotional, and I'm not going to. But last year, Julie Eyre, one of our colleagues, a manager within the income team, sadly passed away from esophageal cancer. Julie was a great friend, a great colleague, and bloody great at her job too. She's a sad loss, and in her memory, this will be Charity of the Year for 2021. So our first donation comes from all of the staff, and I guess really, Julie, there you go, you can be a bright star as well. Now I really am done, Mike.
Right, thank you very much, Maria. Okay, as you'll see now, we're now moving on to the more formal bit of it. We've had the exciting bit of the meeting over and done with. The next item is to receive and sign the minutes. Everybody's had a copy of the minutes in advance. Can I ask if those people who were board members at this time last year, if they can remember, if they would like to approve these as a true record of the meeting, of the minutes of that meeting? Can I have approval?
Bob McDonald, I approve it. Move, yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Paul, next slide there, please. We're now moving on to the reappointment of board members. Again, that's in the papers in front of you, that we're noting the reappointment of Bob McDonald and Jan Shepherd back to the board. I very much value the contribution made by two excellent board members, and I'm very pleased that they have agreed to serve another term on the board. So welcome back to Bob and Jan, and I hope we'll note that. Thank you. Okay, next item is the reappointment of external auditors. The recommendation is that we reappoint the current external auditors, BDO LP, for the year 2020 to 2021, and to authorise the payment of fees as outlined in paragraph 2.2 of the report. Do we all agree with that? Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Agreed.
Right, we now move on to the annual report, which again is slightly different. Normally at this point here, I would stand up and say something to you. We're hoping to do it slightly more with some slides. So, Paul, could we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. My report, and the next one, please, Paul. This is a report on the year which has ended in April, and it's been a strange year. As I've said on the slide here, it started as a celebration, really, that we were celebrating 100 years of council housing nationally and council housing in Derby, and a whole series of events, a bit more which I'll say about later, but we finished it with the last few months with the coronavirus, the lockdown, the pandemic, and all the things that we've heard about. So I don't think any of us have ever gone through a year like this, where we've gone from a real high to something that was really difficult, but as has been picked out as well, has really come out as a big plus for the organisation and everybody that's involved with us in the way we've dealt with it. Just a couple of other things to say is that obviously we are celebrating continued excellent performance, and I would refer you to the Derby Homes annual report, which has got all sorts of things about performance in it to show what excellent performance we've got. And also, again, that as has become common at this stage, we celebrate the fact that we've yet again got the ROSPA President's Award. You can see the little thing there for excellent performance in health and safety at work. Paul, can we have the next slide there, please? We talked about some of the celebration. This is some of the celebrations that's gone on there. You'll see, again, these are pages from the annual report, and you'll see a number of things that happened on there. We had a royal visit to the War Memorial Village. Princess Anne came and visited. A really warm afternoon and a really, really excellent time just to really kick off the year of the 100 years of council housing. We've done all sorts of things which might not normally come in here, but we had a specialist coffee grinding, and I know Roy Webb has been was very pleased to be grinding the coffee and tasting it, as we all did a tasting, and this has been marked for there. And something which is, I don't think I need to say, but has been closer to my heart, is that Derby Homes had a massive presence at the Derby Beer Festival in February. Very well received, a prime thing there, and it gave a lot of opportunity for people to go up and chat to Derby Home staff, and it was amazing what stories we were hearing from our residents and people who've been brought up in council housing and how important that had been to them. And it was a really, really good celebration, including a specialist beer, Addison Ale, to commemorate the Addison Act. If we move on, Paul, please. One of the things I said is that the 100 years has really shown what the impact of council housing has been to Derby people, how much has improved the lives of the ordinary people of Derby, and just how important it has been over the last 100 years. And it is just as important now. And I think one of the things that we're showing from the effect of the pandemic is just how important council housing and social housing generally is to Derby people. So the fact that Derby City Council and Derby Homes have been doing this for the last 100 years, it's made a real positive impact, and we hope we can continue, not that I'll be around to see it, for the next 100 years at least. Next slide, please, Paul. It's been mentioned, but again, one of the events we did is, I think it was the fourth birthday, the third birthday party of the Extra Care at Parklands Home. Again, a really nice event, well attended. You can see Councillor Webb there raising a glass to celebrate their birthday. Again, Paul, next slide. I'm not going to say a great deal about this at the moment, but one of the important things that's happened during this year is the big effort with all our partners. We've heard a lot about it earlier on in the meeting about homelessness reduction. Again, what a massive impact that this partnership working with Derby Homes and all the partners, the council, the City Mission, and loads of other partners have made to really reducing homelessness. I'm not going to say a great deal more about that because I believe that Councillor Polser is going to mention that also later on in the meeting. So we could move on then, please, Paul. One of the things I'm really, really pleased with and proud of from Derby Homes is the effort we put into apprentices. We've now been nominated twice for the Derby Business Awards for the Apprentice Organisation of the Year. Unfortunately, we've not won it, but the fact we've made it through to the final 3 on 2 consecutive years just shows what a good job we're doing in apprentices. The young man that you'll see on the slide there is Nilesh, and even better for that he was actually the winner, as you see, you might see if you can read the slide, as the winner of the East Midlands Apprentice Champion of the Year for 2019. One of our apprentices performing nationally and performing very well, just showing what an excellent programme of apprentices that we've got. I will also go on to say that really how important, again, that the apprentice programme is in the coming year. One of the really bad effects of the pandemic has been the effect on young people. We've seen the effect on schools and on things like that, and also there's going to be a great knock-on effect in terms of the jobs that are available. That Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments to come up. We've got some staff watching on YouTube, by the way, it appears. But the apprenticeship programme is vital to the life chances of young people. It's a very small contribution that we can make, but it's a very, very important contribution. And I said, I'm really proud that we are doing that. That, as Maria said, that Nilesh is now a national apprentice ambassador and is doing so much to support other young people using his experiences to help people through their apprentices. If we could move on then, please. Again, I'm not going to say a great deal about this because a lot of it's been said before, but one of the things that came through from the pandemic is really how important the true strength of partnership working is, how important it is. It's vital to what we do. What we do is important. What we do is made a lot more effective by the fact that we're working with partnerships, and the pandemic has really, really shown that up. It's always important, but it's been even more important. Paul, next slide, please. Again, I'm not going to say a great deal about this because a number of it's been said, but I'd just like to give a very quick mention to the homelessness and housing option team's work for the fantastic example of the way that staff have handled the transition into home working. As a small team, they handle large volumes of calls each day from those that are homeless or threatened with homelessness. The calls can often be intense, but they manage them with sensitivity and care. The role has been traditionally always been office-based, and none of the team had ever worked from home. The ability to take calls via laptops and headsets was quickly rolled out, and on the same day they were all working from home. Plunged into a whole new world, they quickly established new working practices, found new ways to continue to support each other, and they're still providing the same excellent level of service as they always for those who are often at a crisis point. This is not just true of that team. This is going on across all of Derby Homes. And finally, I'd just like to finish by passing on my thanks to all the staff members at Derby Homes, and also to my colleague board members for the help and support that they've given over this 12 months. The board is a healthy board, it's an effective board, and certainly Derby Homes would not be as effective without that. So my genuine thanks to the board members, but particularly I just want to mirror what Maria said a few minutes ago, that I'd like to pass on my personal thanks to each and every member of staff for working through this really, really difficult year and coming out with flying colours and doing a fantastic job for all sorts of people in Derby. Thank you very much. I'd just like to now commend you the annual report and finance report and hope that that's accepted. Thank you very much. Paul, if you could pass on. Is that approved?
Approved. Approved, okay. Yes.
Approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, Ian, now I ask you to present your report as Chair of the Audit Committee.
Thank you, Chair. This annual report sets out the main activities of the Audit Committee over the past year. Paragraphs 3.2 and 3.3 outline that 13 audit reports were completed during the 2019-20 financial year, and also that the committee considered and reviewed the Derby Homes strategic and operational risk registers for 2020-21. Paragraph 3.4 outlines the work of the committee in monitoring the financial integrity of Derby Homes, including approving the 2020-21 external audit strategy and the internal audit plan, and by reporting to the board the 2019-20 accounts and overseeing the production of the statement of internal control for inclusion in the annual report of the board of directors for the year ended 31st of March 2020, which we've just considered. This AGM is being requested to note the contents of the report, and I would also like to express my appreciation and thanks to all of the members of the Audit Committee for their effective and conscientious work during the course of the year, and also to the Derby Home staff who attend the committee, in particular Maria Murphy, David Endicott and Michael Kirk. And thank you also to our internal and external auditors for their work too. Thank you, Chair.
Move to note the report.
Approved. Thank you, Alan. I think Mike has gone mute at the moment.
Yeah, I was muted. Okay.
Yeah, it's all approved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bob, are you going to give your report to chair the operational board?
Yeah, by comparison, my report is going to be quite small and short in length. So, Mike Stole the Thunder is giving you all the facts and information, and, all credit to him. So I'm just going to give you a very brief report about the operational board. I can't really believe it's been almost a year since the last operational board report. What started out as a normal year was interrupted in March by COVID-19, and we have not been able to meet as normal. You would say define normal. In March this year, with no sign of any positive news on when we can all meet face to face. Thank goodness for Skype, and I'll tell you what, I'd never used Skype in my life before, but I've become an expert. We've had a couple of resignations from two of our long-serving members, and that was Jim Elks and Ian Veach. They've both left for personal reasons, and they've both been around as long as I've been on my time with Derby Homes, which is coming up for about 9, if not more years. And it's a shame to see people go with such experience and that. So I'd like to wish them well and thank them and their families for all their hard work over the years. And they have certainly been very, very supportive to the operational board. So yet again, I say thank you very much to them. Once again, I'm pleased to report that the performance has been very pleasing throughout the year. I'm quite pleased with what the operational board has achieved and the way we're doing things. It's made a number of key decisions that improve the services and facilities for our tenants and residents. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, these are the people that we want at the forefront of everything we do. The continuation of a programme of improving paths, house standings and parking facilities. And that's quite an emotive one, because a lot of parking and house standings is quite a big issue in the town, and we've really got a programme to improve these. Providing grants to organisations that provide our customers with support and opportunities. And again, it's good that we can give grants to deserving organisations. Reviewing the range of policies and strategies that service that put our customers first and at the heart of everything we do. It has been a privilege to chair the operational board, and I would like to thank the vice chair, Jan Shepherd, who keeps me on the straight and narrow, and members of the operational and staff for their continued support. And I'd just like to echo Ian's and Mike's sentiments as well. I've come to know lots of staff at Derby Homes. I've known various people within the offices out there with the guys. I've seen the teams, and what a grand job that we do. I think as an organisation, a lot of people would be envious of the staff we've got. And I would like to say I, as a tenant and also on the operational board, really, really think we are very fortunate with our teams. That whether that be the guy or the girl taking the calls to, I've had my kitchen refitted recently, the guys were brilliant. The teams all over are absolutely fantastic. Well done, Team Derby. And I believe I've got a couple of things to finish off with. This person will probably not thank me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I cannot end without saying a big thank you to Jackie Mitchell for her sterling work behind the scenes, as she does to support the operational work. Jackie just gets on with it, and she's there, and then things just appear as if by magic. But it can't be much fun doing behind the scenes, which she never moans, and she gets on and does it, and she's never ever let me down at all in my role as chair of the operational board. So thank you, Jackie, an unsung hero. I wish you all well and hope that we manage to stay COVID-free and that next year's AGM is more face-to-face than this year's. I've enjoyed doing this year. The Skype things works and it's better than nothing at all. And I really have enjoyed it. But we'll look forward to being face-to-face next year. And thank you once again to everybody who has helped me and the operational board throughout the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. We'll note that. I'll now pass over to Councillor Chris Poulter for Derby City Council's response. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Mike. My great pleasure again to give a response on behalf of the council, for which my sins I am leader. I'm going to start with some statistics which are on the next page, I think. Statistics can be a devil at times, but we need them, and they're included here because there are some performance highlights and statistics that are more than worthy of note. And to start with them, 95.3% of people satisfied by the service they receive. That is absolutely fantastic, and then the same applies to all these statistics in effect, whereas over 99% of people have satisfaction with the repairs that Derby Homes carries out. And I have had with my my partner's mum some very recent experience of that, and she always echoes that sort of percentage of satisfaction. So and what we shouldn't lose focus on is that the important people here are the tenants. They're the public who we house and you house on our behalf, and we take it from there. So it's a great satisfaction to me that 93% of your tenants believe they get value for money in the accommodation that they receive. And that's backed up by the fact that 100% of Derby Homes properties now reach the decent home standard, and that's not been without a lot of effort and a lot of continued effort over many years to meet that standard. And I'm very conscious that Derby Homes and our own staff are very conscious of trying to work with partners and other housing providers in the city to raise their standard, and by setting an example to other housing providers, then hopefully the citizens of Derby can benefit from that. So alongside that comes another interesting and fantastic figure of 99% of all repairs being performed in a timely manner. So that in itself is great. One of the undesirable occupational hazards of running an Almo like yourselves is, like the council, there are at times dissatisfaction with the service or complaints and things that we have to deal with, and it's vitally important that they are dealt with seriously. I know, and I can speak from experience, that when I as a local council have an issue that I need to address, I'd get a prompt and effective response from the teams on the ground. So you have to be congratulated on receiving a figure of 98% dealing with complaints at the first instance. So again, all those figures are examples of performance from Derby Homes which can only be admired. So take the next page, please. Okay, so the ethos, Rachel North in the comments has already made reference to Team Derby, and Team Derby, as far as we're concerned, are working with all our partners, including Derby Homes, on a team basis. And we've picked out just a few examples of how team working has benefited the residents of Derby. And we've already mentioned the effects of COVID. One of the effects is the effects on people's employment and income and livelihood. And one of the undesirable effects of that is the increased reliance on the need to apply for universal credit. And there's been some fantastic work done in continuing to support residents in dealing with that rollout of universal credit and the need to apply. One of the biggest bonuses in recent times in relation to Derby Homes has been the success in providing additional homes to be able to provide for residents. So it's quite apt that in just the year after the 100th anniversary, Derby Homes have achieved and completed their 100th property owned by the Almo, which is a fantastic achievement. Derby Homes' support in relation to the increase in affordable homes that the council and yourselves have achieved is fantastic, and that's been achieved through the right to buy receipts. And again, another success story is the figure of 52 new affordable homes being delivered during 2019-2020 by Derby Homes, and the support of the council in supplying properties that can be used by children's services has been a massive advantage for us as a council. Next page, please. So again, another positive to come out of the pandemic is absolutely clear evidence of resilience on a partnership basis in their response that's been made to the COVID crisis. COVID-19 and the UK lockdown has presented massive challenges all round, and the people of Derby Homes and the council have responded admirably. And Maria, in her opening remarks, referenced many of your colleagues and their adaptability and flexibility that they've shown. You know, your staff quickly adapted to new ways of working. We all have learned how to use headphones, and some of us have more troubles with headphones, Mike, than others, as you experienced a little while ago, but we're all getting used to it. And who would have thought we would have been zooming and teaming around the world as we do at the moment? But we've all had to learn that, but it's in some ways that's proven an advantage as well. So again, Maria also referred to many staff members, as they've done across the council, taking on different roles, being seconded into new roles, essential roles that were necessary, like the cremation service, like security around the cemeteries, as Maria referred to. So the overall picture, though, the big exciting issue for me has been the way that the volunteer and community action and community volunteer organisations have coalesced together with Derby Homes support into a new COVID response hub that's helped to coordinate efforts around the city in very, very short order, in fantastic style, and has been a model for other councils across the country, and I really want to commend people in that regard. With all that said, I think I've touched on it very briefly earlier on. Resilience has been great, but we may well be coming into a further stage where further resilience is needed, and there may be a need to ramp back some of these services back up to cope with a second wave. We're doing everything we can to avoid or reduce the effect of that, but we may well be calling on your services again with that regard. Next page. So another success story that Mike referred to briefly and I touched on was the homeless and rough sleeping strategy. Absolutely, we gained national recognition through the efforts of partners in Derby with an immensely quick response to the need to get people off the streets at the beginning of this crisis. We were first to take up the option of using a hotel facility, and not only did we get them off the street, but it provided us an opportunity to give them the aftercare services and follow up on some of the people's needs that were required, and we got them all in, and that was fantastic. Over 160 homeless placements were made and have been made into the private rented sector. A fantastic achievement by you all. Next page. So exactly that, everyone in. Luke Hall, the communities minister, well, he was Luke Hall in this, it was then, he's now moved on to another role, called for everybody in, and as I've already referred to, Derby negotiated the funding for a paramedic to carry out daily COVID-19 checks on all the guests, and added additionality to the service of getting them off the street, and we in many ways tried to tackle the needs of those people and some of the reasons why they were on the streets in the first place. So every night at the hotel up until its closure in June have been made, these people have been made an offer of accommodation since, and again there will be a new phase and a new focus on how to deal with Derby Homes, but I know that people are already actively working on that next phase and how to continue to reap the benefits in the way that the homeless in Derby have benefited. Thank you. Next page. I guess that sums it up. They are only a few examples of the positives to come out of the partnership work in Team Derby in the last few years, and it just needs me to say in conclusion, and it very simply says it there and I can't say it any clearer, well done Derby Homes, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that those very kind words saying, and I think it just emphasises, as Rachel said earlier, that we are Team Derby, working for Derby together. Moving on, the next item is questions which should have been submitted in advance, and I don't believe we have any, so we can move straight on to item 10. Any other business that's relevant to the AGM? I have none. Has anybody else got any further business which is relevant to this AGM?
Mike,
sorry, Mike, can I just say I still haven't received any sandwiches or cakes yet. Have they been delivered later, or should they have been here by now?
No, I'm sorry, that's one of the budget cuts we've had to make, Chris.
May I just make reference to the member of our board who was at it's Lucy Kerr, the member of our board who was here a year ago and is no longer with us.
Yeah.
Yes, I was actually going to mention the same thing. Maybe we should have a reference to him.
I mean, my apologies to both of you. It's not, I've forgotten. I was going to do that in the board meeting, but I'm quite happy for you, either or both of you, to say something about it now as well.
Well, I'll say a little bit because I knew Finbar originally because he was a Liberal Democrat councillor, and he was a Liberal Democrat councillor for 8 years, as well as being a Derby Homes tenant. And it was just a year ago that he became a member of the board, as a tenant member of the board, and it was lovely to be working with him again. He's, I'm saying he is, I haven't got used to the idea that he's no longer with us. He's somebody who was always enthusiastic, but quietly so. He was passionate in a way that didn't impose on people, but he was tenacious, and he believed in fairness, and he wanted to have the right things for people. He had a lot to offer, and he was taken too soon from us. He's referenced in our paperwork going forward, and I'm pleased that he was able to make an impact on Derby Homes in the short time he was here as a board member.
Thank you, Lucy. Alan, do you want to add to that, or?
No, I didn't really know Finbar very well. I did know him as a fellow councillor when he joined the council, and obviously performed that role extremely well. And I wasn't even aware that he was a board member until I joined the board recently. So I think it might be worth, Mr. Chairman, if you do a minute's silence for him.
Again, I was going to do something at the beginning
Okay.
there. If we could do it as at the board meeting, but I think a mark of respect for Finbar would be very appropriate. But thank you. If there's any other business, the last thing that we've got, Paul, if you could put up the last slide, please, is the AGM next year is planned for the 30th of September 2021, and as Bob said, possibly we may be meeting in person with cakes and sandwiches, Chris. So thank you very much for that. That is the end of the AGM. We will now move into the into the September board meeting, but could I just say that perhaps we could give ourselves a few minutes comfort break before we start that and reconvene at, say, 6:05, if that's appropriate to everybody?
That's fine, Michael, thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Some who've been following us on YouTube, we hope you found this interesting and informative. You'll be very welcome to stay with us for the non-confidential part of the board meeting, which will commence in about 8 minutes' time. Thank you very much. Right. Welcome everyone to the September board meeting of Derby Homes. We are back online. I hope if anybody's watching on YouTube, welcome to the board meeting. We hope you find this interesting. Again, it's the first time we've done this. We'll see how it works, and I do hope there's somebody out there listening to us. If we start on the agenda, the first item is apologies, and the only apology I've had is Rachel North, who attended the AGM but has now had to leave. So apologies for Rachel. I don't think there's any more apologies, are there, Jackie? No?
No, Mike.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I don't think there are any late items. And are there any declarations of interest other than those previously declared?
Yes, Mike, may I just mention that it occurred to me earlier this week that as well as things I've put on the declaration, which is listed here, I'm also, Lucy Care that is, I'm also a member of the, I don't think it's a big title, the Derbyshire Local Authority Pension Scheme Investment Committee. The role that Derby Homes has within this is very small. It's a very small contributor of that scheme, but it is the pension scheme that members of Derby Homes are belong to. So it is something that I do need to declare. I've sent an updated sheet through to Jackie, and it'll be, I'm sure she'll be updating things as she needs.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucy. I'm sure that will be updated. It's an item much further down the agenda, and I think it'll be updated at that point, but thank you. Okay, with that, David, I'll pass over to you for item 4.
Well, thank you, Chair. And this item is an item we take every year, but this particular year is a special year in that our normal process for the appointment of Chair is to appoint for 3 years with a confirmation, annual confirmation. And as Mike has now reached the end of the current 3-year term, there is a round of expressions of interest for the Chair of Derby Homes. It is open still to any board members who wish to put themselves forward, to add themselves to the 3 who have put themselves forward, which is Mike, Alan Graves and Bob McDonald. So could I just first of all just check with the board members that are there any other board members who wish to stand for chair? I'll take the silence as no then, thank you. And in that case, the process is that each of those 3 will make a short statement to their fellow board members, and then after that, the broadcast will go into a short intermission while we undertake a vote, and at the end of that intermission, we will declare the new Chair of Derby Homes. So could I call first of all on Mike to say a few words?
Thank you, David, and thank you, fellow board members. I'm not actually going to say a great deal. I've been the chair for a while. I hope that all of you know my strengths, and I'm fairly sure you also know my weaknesses. What I will say, in my time as the chair, that things have moved on quite a lot, and I think mainly for the better. I'm not going to claim the credit for this because it's, as in all these things, it's been a team effort, but I hope I've played my part in this. Certainly I remember very early on in my term of office being someone with Maria, and we were told in no uncertain terms that in 6 months' time Derby Homes will be taken back in house with the council and this board would cease to exist. We've now moved on from there and to become, as everybody said previously, a very well-respected partner. One of the things I had, obviously I have my own political views, they're no secret to anybody, but in my time as chair I've never let the political views stand in the way of doing what's best for Derby Homes. I have a good relationship, I hope, with Roy Webb and also with his predecessor Fareed Hussain, so I've been very happy to work and cooperate with both major political parties in their time of control of the council. I also think I've got good relationships with the exec team and other staff, all staff in fact, but that's not to say it's a cosy relationship. I hope that I've again proved that when necessary, I can hold them to account to do the best for Derby Home. One of the things I am very proud of is that since becoming chair, that I've also become an active part nationally of the National Federation of Almos. I'm now currently vice chair of there, and that has helped to actually raise the profile of Derby throughout the national scene, and for us to be recognised for the excellent work that we've done. I do take it as a very positive sign of a very healthy board that there are two colleagues who are keen to take on this role. And if you decide that it is time for a change, I'll offer all my help and support to an incoming chair. However, the future looks very exciting. I want to remain an important part of this. I'm not ready to step down yet, and I'm proud to be chair of such a good organisation, and I'd like to carry on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mike. And now for our second candidate, could I call on Alan to give a few words, please?
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. My name is Alan Graves. I'll start by saying that I believe in local government, including organisations such as Almos. But sometimes they need shaking up, otherwise they suffer from a malaise that affects the effectiveness of said organisations. One example I've already raised at the last meeting is the way Derby Homes has fallen into a habit of putting too many agenda items into the private section of the meeting. I believe this is a worrying trend. I have been trying to get on this board for a number of years, but until recently, with interesting changes in the dynamics of the council, I have now been able to achieve this. So a little bit about me. I'm a partner and a director of an SME on Pride Park, which we started in 1983. My role is marketing and customer services, and I am very proud of our customer retention and our reputation within that industry. Only this month we have been featured in a Derby City Council video on the decarbonisation of the city and our involvement and achievement in this. In 2018 we were recognised as the Ethical Green Business of the Year by the Federation of Small Businesses. It wasn't until 1995 that I became a councillor, and at that time it was a determination that I had because of the negative impact the council, and in particular the education department, had on my family. I wanted to ensure if anyone else had encountered those problems I had, that there would be someone on the inside to help. I have maintained that mantra ever since. During my time on the council, I saw the transition to a unitary authority. I have been the chairman of finance, and a cabinet member and many other roles. I was also founder member of the new Almo Derby Homes back in 2002 when Phil Davis was the chief exec. I am proud of the fact that I was part of the decision making that turned our housing department into Almo rather than selling it off to a third party. The housing situation would, in my view, be very different today had that happened. Politically, I represent one of the wards with one of the largest number of council housing in the city, Alveston. I deal with hundreds of casework each year, with the majority linked to housing. I also have started Derby's first Derby-only focused political party to give voters an alternative and an independent choice to the mainstream political system. I don't believe in the old boy network, but I do believe in challenging dogma. Housing is now firmly a huge issue nationally, and the pressure has been increasing in recent years. Gone are the days when people put their names on the list. But I have never known such a need from ordinary people as I do today. I have seen successive governments for decades treat social housing as an irritant to them, and homeless figures rise to unacceptable levels. I would like to take this opportunity to bring my experience and energy by leading this board. I believe I bring that direct link between Derby Homes, the council, and our customers. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Alan. And now could I call on Bob to say his few words, please?
Thanks, David. Thank you very much. When I first became an involved tenant with Derby Homes back in early 2012, my ambition was to be the position I'm in today, to be able to put myself forward as chair of Derby Homes. I've been on a journey to achieve that ambition by fulfilling different roles within Derby Homes and upskilling myself. I've been involved tenants, as I said, since 2012. I was served on the tenant panel, which is now Customer Voice. I started off on the City Board, which is the operational board, and subsequently, for the last 6 years, I've actually been on the main tenant main board member. and during which time I've served as vice chair and chair of the operational board. Amongst the roles that I've undertaken within Derby Homes are that I am their customer service champion, and customer service is my background, as well as a national representative on the See the Person committee, and I've also served on the complaints appeal panel and virtual panels for different areas of the business. I've been around the business quite a lot, meeting and greeting. I've gained open and honest views from managers and their teams, and actively encouraged them to tell me from their side, and that has been fed back to SMT on my findings, and I found that a very useful exercise in preparation for this today. Derby Homes is committed to putting customers at the forefront of the business and believe heavily in tenant participation and consulting with their tenants, taking tenants' views into consideration. So for me, I say a positive sign that that really is the case would be to appoint a tenant as the chair of Derby Homes. This sends a clear message that not only does Derby Homes put their customers first, but have appointed a tenant to lead the board to further enhance their views and implement changes where necessary. My experience of chairing the operational board and chairing DACP, Derby Association Community Partners, has given me the necessary skills needed to be chair of Derby Homes, I feel. I believe in openness and honesty, and they are paramount to being able to be fair and respect others and their views. We all need to share our views and thoughts without fear of any retribution. I have what I believe are good interpersonal skills, which I've enhanced since the start of my time with Derby Homes. I feel my experience with Derby Homes throughout the business, that I'm ready and willing to take on the challenging role of chair of Derby Homes. I've gained recognition within Derby Homes for the work that I have done to date. I thank the board tonight for their time and allowing me to make my statement in support of my application for the chair of Derby Homes. And finally, I'd like to say, whoever succeeds as chair tonight, they will get my 100% support, and I can guarantee that. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much to all three of you. I was trying to be a bit advanced and create the poll in advance there and save us all some time, but unfortunately, that means I couldn't unmute myself. Sorry, but do apologise for that. So we will now attempt to move to a vote, and subject to my ability with the technology, that will come up for you in a few seconds, I hope, or perhaps a minute.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so we were taking a short intermission there to conduct a ballot to elect the chair of the board. The vote was tied, and therefore we, as a board, decided to revisit that decision at a later stage. In addition to that, the board also decided that as an existing vice chair, I would chair the remainder of the meeting this evening. And due to the fact that we haven't been able to settle the issue of the chair of the board, we are therefore also unable to settle the appointment of the vice chairs of the board. So we will be skipping item 5 in its entirety and moving directly on to item 6. They're the minutes of the previous board meeting. Does anyone wish to speak on the minutes of the board? Any additional information need to be presented from anybody?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, can I have agreement from the board that they are an accurate reflection and you are happy to agree them?
Agreed.
Move to agree.
Agree.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And are there any matters arising from those minutes that anyone would like to discuss?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
No.
No.
And then on to announcements from the chair. This is rather impromptu and I have no idea if there were any announcements due to be done, but clearly we do need to acknowledge the sad fact that a former member of the board is no longer with us this evening. Former councillor Finbar Richards, who more latterly joined the board as a tenant member, sadly passed away very recently. If anybody wishes to speak on that matter, please do. Otherwise, I'll just move to hold a minute's silence in remembrance. Can I ask anyone if they wish to speak? Mike, yes, please. Mike, are you with us?
Sorry about that. I forgot to unmute myself.
No problem.
I would just like to mirror what you just said and what was said previously in the AGM. In my time as chair, I can't claim to have known Finbar very well. I only knew him in a brief time as a board member, but I really found that his contributions to the board were something different. He brought a different perspective to the board, something that I found very valuable, and particularly he came from a different direction, and what he said was always interesting and moved the board on in a different way. It's a real pity that he's passed away so suddenly, and I will certainly miss his contributions to the board, as I think we all will, and I'd just like to mirror our thanks to him and our thoughts to his family for this. I would just like to say that we have been in contact with his family, and Finbar's funeral will be at Nottingham Road Cemetery on Friday the 2nd of October. There's a private service in the chapel which is family only, but his family has said that if anybody wishes to go to the cemetery, then they'll be very, very welcome. So that's at 12 o'clock on Friday the 2nd of October, and then there will be a wake at the Old Spar Inn on Abbey Street following that, which again anybody is welcome to attend. But again, my thoughts are with Finbar's family, and we're very sorry that he's no longer with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Agree with all that. Very sad indeed. If that's okay then with everybody, I'd like to just move to a short minute's silence. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, on to item 9, to receive any statements from members of the board. Does any member of the board wish to make a statement?
Yes, Sarah. Can I just make one other statement,
Of course you
which
can,
is
Mike.
to just inform board members of there's an NFA event for all board members. It'll be an online event, be taking place on Tuesday the 13th and Wednesday the 14th of October. Both sessions run from 10 till 11:30. We've obviously never done them virtually before, but these events have always been very informative, very interesting, and I would encourage any of our board members who wish to take part in that to take part, and if so, we do need to register the attendance, and so if you could let Jackie know as soon as possible, preferably straight away, whether you wish to attend there, we can register any board members for that event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else?
Yes, please, Sarah.
It's Roy Webb.
Well, you're technically not a member of the board, but I shall allow it, Councillor Webb.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
If you promise to be brief, you may continue.
Yes, I'm not a member of the board. This is a board meeting. The chair previously allowed me to attend as cabinet member. Do you have any objections, or does the board have any objections to me continuing to attend the meeting?
Of course not, Roy. I'm perfectly happy for you to continue your attendance. I'm sure the board feel the same, unless anybody wishes to speak up. Okay, thank you very much. Committee Chair's feedback, operational board. Bob, do you want to give us a...
Helps to unmute yourself, doesn't it?
Thanks, Bob.
Right. The operational board was held. It was the first Skype operational board meeting ever, and it was on the 3rd of September, and it was quite a good meeting. We had the usual stuff, chair's announcements and minutes of the previous meeting. We looked at performance for the year-end report, and then performance management, and we were happy with that. The forward plan, we looked at the forward plan. The topic that really got most people going was the grounds maintenance scheme, and as I said earlier, the hard standings in parking, and there was quite heated discussions over that, but we did manage to resolve it. The state's prior update, most things were agreed. We looked at safeguarding policy, and another one was the use of social use of garages. And as you may know, garages nowadays, they seem to be too small for cars, so there was a look at using it for social use. Some garages. There was a meeting about outdoor meetings in sheltered schemes, and then there was a homeless report and the complaints. And most of you will have seen the minutes anyway, and you'll know what it was about. Basically, I think the most emotive things are always grounds maintenance and car parking in hard standings. And you heard earlier on about the car parking in hard standings that we'd done. I think that's briefly. Is there any questions? I'll take them.
That's great. Thanks, Bob. Anyone wish to ask a question or comment on that?
Thank you, everyone.
That's great. Thanks so much. Okay, moving on to item 11, outstanding actions.
Apologies, Chair. Sorry, we held an extra governance committee on Monday, and obviously that was after the papers went out. So there was one policy item that was discussed there. So I don't know if Jean wants to take it, or I'm happy to.
I'm happy to do it, David, and Chair as well, to talk through. So yeah, as David said, the governance committee met earlier in the week. We had a really robust discussion around what should be included in the confidential items and minutes and what should be in the public sections, and the executive team are going to be looking at that in more detail. There were two reports to be considered. So one was a request for voluntary early retirement, which was approved on the basis that it was in the interest of Derby Homes and that there was a clear business benefit to the company. The second report was a request from an employee giving notice to switch on the 85% rule for themselves, which resulted in a very small cost to Derby Homes in terms of pension contribution. And this has to be recouped within the 18 months, but it gives the company an opportunity to review the staffing and management within the teams and change things around, which leads to substantial savings. So meaning that there are substantial savings within the 18 months. But the report also approved a recommendation that the criteria upon which pension discretion requests are appraised are due to be replicated, those in place for the voluntary early retirement requests as well, so that there's some equity between both schemes, and on the understanding that the balance of the benefit to Derby Homes of the proposals against the cost and wouldn't normally be approved unless it was in the interest of Derby Homes. This would normally involve a significant saving and recovery of any cost chargeable to Derby Homes within the 18 months of the proposed change. It was also agreed at the meeting that it would be useful to have a 6-month report for any cases or applications which have actually been declined, so that the governance committee has and the board have full sort of understanding of reasons why applications are refused, and so that we can ensure that there is transparency and equity in the decision making as well. I think there was also sort of a question about where the decision making lay, whether it was at governance committee or had to be reported back to board. But David, if you want to come in on that, please.
Please, if I could. So the question was that there was two elements. There was actually the granting of those discretions, but then there was the underlying policy of applying the same policy and guidance to those discretions as we do to, and that was a policy decision which the governance committee feel, well, it is not actually delegated to the governance committee, it's left with the board, and that's why we need the board to agree to those recommendations of the government committee tonight, if that's okay.
Thank you, David. Does anyone have any questions or comments to make on that, or are we happy to agree and move on?
Agree and move on.
Agree and move on.
Marvellous. Thank you very much. Okay, item A1, to agree any items from Part C to be discussed.
Did anybody want to say anything about outstanding actions?
That was outstanding actions.
I can.
That was governance committee.
I can pick outstanding actions up, Sarah.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Item 11, you've got the table there. The review of senior management team is included within my report this time, and the detail for the other actions is tabled unless anybody's got any queries.
No, that's fine, Maria.
Thank you. Now it's A1.
It's been some time since I chaired a Derby Homes board meeting, quite some time, so I'm getting back into the swing. So, item A1, to agree any items from Part C to be discussed. Does anyone wish to comment on that?
Nothing from me.
I think the answer is no.
Silence is golden, Chair.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Item A2. Maria, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be brief with this report tonight because I know you will have all read it before, but I've given you an update on where we are in terms of reviewing the delivery of our services going forward. As I stated in the report, the post of Business and Transformation Change Manager interviews are being scheduled as we speak for first week of October, so that appointment will be made by the time we have our next board meeting. It's interesting that we came up with 4 R's, 3 listed there, the 4th one being review, but we've actually now got another one, and that reflects the current state of the country in battling the pandemic. We are working very hard at the moment on our readiness for how Derby Homes will respond quickly in terms of any escalation locally. We're focusing very, very heavily on the leadership culture, because we are now managing teams that are remote. We're managing teams that are working very, very differently than they were before. And it is highly likely that as an organisation, we are going to have to react and bring back in some changes as we go through the next few months. And I think board members do need to be aware that we may face a bit of a stop-start scenario over the coming months, where it may well be necessary to drop back to essential services, dependent on the situation as it emerges. I hope, though, that, like me, you're confident that our staff are resilient, they are flexible, and we will continue to provide essential services and support the most vulnerable customers all as we go through it. I just mentioned in the previous report, I have included a review of senior management team, and crikey, when I reflect that it has been in place now for almost a year. The final colleague joined us in October last year, that was Ian Yeomans, and the pandemic has certainly tested us to the extreme. I really don't want to think how much harder it may have been with the reduced number that we had previously, because I don't think people could have given any more than they already have given. At the moment, we've got a customer survey that's being carried out, and the feedback that I'm receiving kind of real time, the anecdotal feedback I'm getting from staff who are involved in that, is that customers are extremely complimentary of how Derby Homes have responded. And that is absolutely to the credit of the senior management team who have supported all of their staff to deliver services. We've also been able to get on and address identified weaknesses, particularly around compliance. I know that Ian and Mike will be reassured. They were both involved in interviews with the Health and Safety Executive, but the additional expertise and skills that we now have in the senior management team have enabled us to be in a much better position. We've already talked tonight about the amazing work that Claire and her teams have done to support the homeless. And again, I think the extra resilience we now have around housing management is really starting to show through. And again, even with the upheaval of the last 6 months, that area of Derby Homes are really starting to get to grips with some of the processes that have delivered the job, but we've been wanting for a long time to make changes and make them more customer focused, and that is now all happening. For me personally, the biggest benefit that the new structure has given is it's meant I have actually been able to get on and work much more closely at a strategic level with colleagues in the City Council, working on that partnership. And I think it was evident at the AGM that Derby Homes are now regarded as very much part of the solution. So I think that I certainly look forward to continuing that work with the council. And again, outside of Derby Homes, it's allowed me to just have that extra little bit of time to spend in my role as chair of the exec steering group with the National Federation of ALMOs. That means that Derby Homes gets involved in early consultations. It means that I have the opportunity to influence thinking, particularly around the Housing Ombudsman and the compliance situation. That helps Derby Homes stay at the front and that's absolutely where we want to be. Equalities, we spoke about at the last board meeting, and it had already been agreed that an equalities forum would lead on a piece of work looking at the impacts of COVID on BAME staff and customers. The late Finbar Richards at the last meeting actually sent in his comments and proposed that Derby Homes should issue a statement supporting Black Lives Matter campaign. Staff have already received a statement from me, and we do intend to publish a statement from the board and myself, hopefully the chair of the board and myself, in the next issue of Derby Homes News, which will focus on our commitment to our customers around supporting the Black Lives Matter campaign. Finally, I wanted to give the board kind of indication of where we're going, medium to longer term. Over the last few months, I think it's been inevitable that a lot of our time and efforts has been focused on dealing with immediate impacts. But the truth is the impacts are going to go way beyond where we are now. And the effects certainly indicate to us that we are going to see an increase in demand for social housing as we go forward. At the time of writing the report, I was of the belief that the possession proceedings were going to be extended again. They haven't been extended, so we are now in a position where there are changes to how possession hearings will be prioritised, but that process has now started. Any notices that are issued from now going forward do have to give 6 months notice. Notwithstanding any of those requirements, though, Derby Homes have signed up to a pledge which guarantees that we will treat our customers fairly and in a way that supports them at times of financial difficulty. It will not be in anybody's interests at all to chase evictions, quite the opposite. We have started working very closely with the city and county councils on supporting both tenants and landlords in the private rented sector, and anyone around the city of Derby will very soon see some bright and bold campaigns urging people to contact us to get advice rather than worrying about losing their homes. We've also started a piece of work which actually Councillor Webb spoke to me about pre-COVID. We're now looking at how Derby Homes Limited could potentially intervene in the private market, potentially offering a new sub-market option. Myself and David are making steady progress on working through possibilities and examples which potentially could offer some kind of support or packages for people who are currently owner-occupiers but may well find themselves in positions where they're at risk of losing their home as well. As I said, we're at an early stage. It's a very exciting possibility, and I'm very, very hopeful that we'll be able to bring a report to the next board meeting. But I did want to flag it up now, and it actually sits alongside comments David will make in his financial report. There are some real opportunities for Derby Homes here. But any opportunity and any road we choose to go down will mean the board's going to have to take some decisions over reprofiling our current priorities. But exciting stuff. So if anyone's got any questions, I shall do my best to answer them.
That's great. Thanks so much for that, Maria. Ian, do you want to come in?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to take up the last point that Maria mentioned there. I think there is a good opportunity in terms of linking up with private landlords on this new sub-market rent option she's suggesting, in the context that a lot of private landlords have lost income, a lot of income over the past number of months, and because of the dire situation many of the tenants are in, their chances of recouping some of that income is pretty low. So I think there are a number of private landlords out there, if they could get an arrangement with an organisation like Derby Homes, where they would have a guaranteed income coming in, then they might well be interested in that, even if that income was lower than what they might get in a commercial rental. So I think it's worth pursuing, because I think there is probably a time-limited opportunity, but that would depend on how long this situation goes on. But regardless of how long the COVID goes on, what's clear is there are going to be a number of people, both landlords and tenants, who for a number of years may well be in lesser financial good health than they have been previously, and might well welcome some sort of situation like this. So there might be an opportunity there, which might not occur again.
Yeah, thank you, Ian.
Yeah. Sorry, Maria, did you come back to that?
No, I just agree with everything Ian says.
Yeah. I think we need to progress it in that vein, and I'm sure you will be bringing updates to the board as and when these things progress.
I promise you I will, because I'm extremely excited about that piece of work.
I know you will. Thank you, Maria. Lucy.
Yes, I'll start with what we've just been talking about, because I also think that it's really exciting. The possibilities of not having this hard break between what's private sector and public sector, and the opportunities for having a softer edges and a blending of the way things work, I think is hopefully the way of the future, and I look forward to hearing more about that. Second thing I was going to mention was to really thank you, Maria, for being prescient in coming a year ago and saying, look, slightly over a year ago, to say we really need to look at the senior management team, and giving us the reasons why you needed more time to be able to do a better job of expanding the thinking and opportunity that Derby Homes has been able to take up. We didn't know about COVID then, but having the capacity to think and to plan and to build partnerships, I think, has shown itself to be important. So thank you for that, and thank you for all the people in the team who have been doing that work since. The final point I wanted to make is about the Equalities Forum and Black Lives Matter. One of the things that both the Royal Derby Hospital and the Mental Health Trust, whose official title I've forgotten, are doing, is now offering to people vitamin D for their staff, recognising that we normally make vitamin D through our skin. And if you're dark skinned, you make less of it. And if you're working inside, which so many more people are now doing, and not even walking from a bus stop or even the car to the office, it means that some people are really losing out on their vitamin D. The recommendation from government is that from this sort of time, most people should be taking some, and it protects against a whole range of ailments, which may not be life-threatening, but keep you healthier. And I just wondered whether it was something that Derby Homes could consider doing. It has a particular impact on darker skinned people, so it might be something that if Finbar had still been here, I think he would have been speaking up for.
Thanks, Lucy. I'm going to be a bit naughty with that one and ask if I can pass that to the Equalities Forum as an initiative they may wish to develop.
I think that's a sensible approach, Maria.
Yeah, I think so, Maria, as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Jan?
Thank you. Just a couple of things to say. Really, Maria, to you personally, I think that the way that you've managed to lead the organisation during the COVID situation, and the stuff I've said in previous meetings that has kind of come out, that it's really shown about the culture of the organisation, which is down to you and the other members of the executive team about how you lead that. And I'm really glad that we agreed to strengthen the exec team, because I think it's come into its own during that, and and it's through the employees. We've heard as well that customers are being complimentary, so it's all working really well. But that's down to your leadership, and I'm so pleased we were able to give you that time to be able to expand on what you were already doing. And the other thing is it's just about the new opportunity, and just saying about, I agree how exciting it is, but also it's such a good example of that sort of strategic, proactive approach that Derby Homes does. So we know that there is a homelessness issue. We know that we've got a really good homelessness team and the work that we're doing. This is just another way of addressing some of that. So it kind of like is that full circle. And it's why I really love being on the board at Derby Homes, because it's kind of like so exciting, so proactive, but strategic at the same time. So thank you.
Thanks, Shan. It's a shame that she's had to leave the meeting, but I think something else that has been really important in the last year is the contribution that Rachel North has made as Strategic Director of Communities and Place. For me, it is a pleasure to lead Derby Homes and to be able to work with a Strategic Director that recognises our strengths and is brave enough to take the risks sometimes, to actually ask the Almo to lead on things that maybe before the council perhaps wouldn't have been brave enough. So I think it is a really exciting future. Without the board's backing to extend the senior management team, we simply would not have had the capacity. I just hope this is just the start of even better things.
I absolutely agree with all that's been said. It's been very inspirational to see how people have pulled together, Maria, and just excellent performance from everyone at Derby Homes. And
absolutely everyone
on the board, wholeheartedly thank every single member of the staff team that has delivered these essential services to people during a time of, let's be honest, what's been a crisis. So absolutely brilliant.
And kind of on behalf of the exec team, thank you to the board for having the trust in us to allow us to get on with it when we needed that time. I think as a wider team, we have all done the right thing at the right time.
Great. Thanks so much, Maria. Right, on to item
Maria, sorry.
David's just reminded me of something I've forgotten, and just the sound of his voice. There is one further thing, Chair, that okay. I need to present verbally. I would like to propose to the board that I now give up the increased financial delegations that you granted me during the COVID emergency. I've tried really, really hard to spend that £1 million limit, but haven't quite managed it. So for governance, I think it's appropriate that the board should now reduce me back to my normal levels of financial delegations. However, if the current alert level increases, that should be reinstated. I was going to suggest, in joint agreement with the chair and one of the vice chairs, but let's perhaps say the arrangement to be agreed on how we reinstate if needed. But yeah. It's basically to reduce me down to my normal financial delegations again, which is in line with the council's step down of emergency powers as well.
Yeah, I think that's sensible, Maria. Can the board please indicate if they agree with that?
I agree.
Yes. I agree.
I agree.
Thank you very much. David?
Yep, thank you, Chair.
A3.
Yeah, and thanks to Maria for remembering that.
It's been a long day, David.
I know. Sorry, I've got three items which I'll bring to your attention. Obviously, you need to keep on top of where we are financially. We've literally just this week had a further update on our expected monitoring for this year, and the central forecast is now for about 1.5, 1.6 million surplus this year, give or take. 1%. So we're looking at about 3% of turnover, which is not excessive in any shape or form. But obviously, we were aiming at a lower surplus than that this year. It's mostly been as a result of being a bit slow this year with recruitment. I think everybody can work out why that is. And being able to do some works which have slipped backwards. So clearly they'll will have to be done at some point. So it creates an artificial bit of a surplus. But what it will do is, apart from being able to help with the initiative that we've just been discussing, it will also allow us to have a good hard look for the budget process to see whether there are any of those savings that can be made into permanent ones. So that was all fairly positive news, and I have to thank the Council for supporting us through the first 3 months, in particular on the capital side, where clearly we weren't producing quite the level of output that you might expect, given that a lot of people were unable to do the full-scale output. And the Council did treat us the same as other contractors and support us fully. So that's the revenue position, and that's looking fairly healthy still. The second point is to do with reserves. For a number of years, we've had a strategy of having, if you like, a minimum reserve of 1.72 million, about 5% of turnover, which is very, very low. But we've supplemented that by saying there's a specific reserve for all the rest to go into new homes. And whilst that is still the board's strategy, it's a bit of an artificial divide, if I'm honest, and what I'd like to propose is a single reserve that you can then deploy in any of these directions, depending on what the joint interest is of the board and the council and what it is that we need to do, because at the moment it's a bit restricted. So that's my second item. And the third one, I've literally just got a reply from the County Pension Fund today around a suggestion that we make an advance payment of our pension fund, because we are relatively cash rich at the moment, and certainly don't want to be investing it in.
It appears we've lost David.
Apologies. Apologies. Yeah, just dropped out there. Sorry about that. Because we obviously can't get much of a return, the idea was to get a report from the pension fund actuary as to what sort of discount they could give us if we paid for the remainder of our contract an estimated amount up front. So what they have come back with is that if we were to pay in November, which I think is the likely date for a payment, 3.4 million representing what they estimate we would pay to them for the remaining 17 months, they would give us an £85,000 discount on our expected. That actually works out at about 3.5%, which I think, for anybody who's got any money at all can see that's not a bad return on our money. So my strong recommendation is that we accept that offer. But of course that is subject to the county's pension fund, and this is where Lucy's declaration earlier comes in, that they have to accept that as well. So they may reject that proposal, but at least we know the scale of what we would get if they do accept. So happy to answer questions on any or all three.
Thank you, David. That sounds eminently sensible in my view, but does any board member wish to contribute or ask a question at this point?
I agree, it's a good idea.
Okay, can we agree the recommendations contained in the report then, please?
Yes,
I agree.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Okay, property update. Sean.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, everyone. Here I am from the front room of my house. The papers in front of you in terms of the update are from Property Services. I'll start with the first usual point, which is the new build update. There's an updated schedule on CMIS for people to see more detail on particular sites, and if anyone's got any queries, I'm happy to take them outside of the meeting, relevant to any of the sites that are there. Just a couple of points that I pick up from that. You'll notice from a while ago that we're looking to develop bungalows on Grange Avenue. We're still looking to do that, but you'll notice on the plans that we've had to do a fresh layout and actually enter the site from the south elevation. That's through consultation with planners and highways to try and avoid an accumulation of traffic near the existing entrance to the extra care facility. There are also services in that point of the site as well that will be difficult to negotiate our way around. So you've got the chance to have a look at that. I'm pleased to say now that we are starting to see those sites that we started up around the end of June now starting to complete. Carson Road's finished now, and Bracknell Drive will be finished by the end of this week. It's been a bit frustrating because under the new arrangements it's taken a bit longer than I first hoped to complete some of the sites that were so close before we closed through COVID. But they started to make real progress now. So we've had challenges like material shortages, and we've still been struggling recently with plaster, for example, and we've had other examples where site managers, for example, have had to self-isolate for 14 days. So it's been a bit of a challenge for us, but we are really starting to get there with that now. I've got some good news to report that actually isn't in the report, because I just picked it up this week, and Councillor Webb will be pleased to hear this. We had a recent audit carried out by Homes England, and we've been given a clean bill of health, so we've got all greens in terms of the traffic light system on that. So they had a real good detailed look at a couple of the sites that we've been working on, and we've got a clean bill of health on that, so I just wanted to update you on that. Current working arrangements, everything now is up and running. The last piece of the jigsaw really was getting kitchens and bathrooms going again. Another challenge thrown in there was a new supply for kitchens. The existing supplier had kind of merged with Magnet, actually quite helpful for us because it's just around the corner on Ascot Drive. So, we're just bedding in that new arrangement, and things seem to be going pretty well. And we continue to talk to Bill Base about pressures around materials. And thankfully, we've got 8 pallets of plaster being delivered next week, so we're looking forward to using that. Just over the page, I'm reporting to you at this meeting on the first quarter on regulatory compliance. Clearly, it's been a challenge for us through the first quarter. We closed down gas servicing, electrical inspections, and a lot of services in those early stages of lockdown. Quickly re-emerged with risk assessments to recommence many of those services, and the appendix there gives you a good snapshot in terms of where we are on all 6 key areas of compliance. And considering the challenges that we've faced, we're not doing too bad at all. In fact, everything is 100% compliant because we were slightly ahead of ourselves, so we've been able to use that buffer, and we're quickly catching up on that now. With the exception of electrical safety, we've got a few properties there because that was an element of work that we didn't recommence until the end of June, so we had quite a gap there. And we've got some properties there that we are still working our way through. That, however, is best practice, and within a number of months we hope to be back on track and get back to being fully compliant with that. So the other details are there on the appendix. At the last meeting, I mentioned that we've got a potential opportunity to bid for some grant funding for energy efficiency improvement work, but as I say, the devil's in the detail. Once we saw the detail for the bidding round, you could only bid for properties that were really quite energy inefficient. We're a bit of a victim of our own success. We've only got a handful of properties that were kind of suitable for the grant, and the numbers just didn't add up to being able to make the minimum number for the grant funding that was asked for. You had to have a bid of at least $500,000, and ours was just a touch over 300,000. So we weren't able to submit a bid for that, but we're not giving up on it. We're actually looking to combine the work to council houses and blend private sector homes into a bid and then submit that for round 2. That was, of course, until I had some news today. And today I hear that although we didn't bid for the grant funding, we are still able to benefit from the voucher scheme that's been announced. The bid that we were initially looking at had got a maximum grant of £5,000 per dwelling, and we can get a £5,000 voucher virtually, from the next few weeks. So we still have an opportunity to press on with some of the work that we want to do to some Weeping O5 flats that we've got at Mackworth, and we've got the option now of going down the voucher route, which is identical in terms of its level of funding to the grant that we could have applied for. So that's a bit of a roundup in terms of a few aspects of what's going on in property services. Guys, any questions? I'm happy to try my best to answer them.
That's great. Thank you, Sean. Really exciting stuff there that you're sharing with us. Lucia, did you wish to comment?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up that last point that Sean just made in terms of the energy efficiency and the opportunity for bids and for working in the private sector again. And here's another example of that blended movement from what is public and how an ALMO can actually work across the sectors. So I don't know if you can say anything more about that, Sean, or what partners you need to work with, or how we need to get publicity out, or is it too early? Maybe there's going to be a better report next time.
Well, we started thinking about it in preparation of the bid, Lucy. I'm working really closely with colleagues at the City Council. It's great to be doing that again. I think I mentioned that at the last meeting. So Henry Sipfer and Ian's team has been working very closely with me. We've got a small working group that's set up, and we actually have started to produce some posters that help market the scheme to owner-occupiers. And we think owner-occupiers are a really good target for us to go for, because, of course, they're living in ex-council houses that often haven't had the energy efficiency improvements that we've delivered across the rest of the estate. So it also helps enhance the estate as well. So we are looking to target that. So we are moving as quickly as we can. And the announcement today gives us some more vigour to be able to press on and hopefully, bring some of that work forward, but still make sure that we've got decent arrangements in place contractually, that we've got the right sort of quality of work, and that we've got the right kind of engagement methods to make sure that we are garnering that support. So yeah, we're doing all we can. I can give you more detail at the next meeting, Lucy.
Yeah. So just to clarify, at the moment you're targeting ex-council house owners primarily.
That was the original intention, and the private owner occupiers are the ones that we're targeting. Ideally, Wimpy and O'Fine properties, to be fair, in Mackworth and Chaddeston, where we've got quite a number that were purchased, ahead of us carrying out any of the external insulation work a few years ago, and that, from a conversation with a contractor that was going to help carry out the work, meant that it was deliverable within a reasonable period of time, because the initial bid had to deliver the work by the end of March next year. But one of the challenges the council had was having to go through a procurement process to be able to engage that contractor, and that would have taken us 2 or 3 months down the line, and then before you know it, you're running out of time to be able to complete the work by the end of March. Throw in bad weather and a few frosts, and it increases the challenge, and we didn't want to put our reputation at risk, by promising something that we thought we might struggle to deliver.
Right. Well, this is stage 1. Let's hope stage 2 is just around the corner.
Let's hope so. It kind of is already. It's almost here, Lucy. With the information that I've had through today, so we can kind of lash onto that. So I'll be looking at that in more detail over the next few days.
Right. Thank you.
That's great, Sean. Thank you. And yes, thank you, Ian. I didn't realise you were on the call, Ian Fullager. Hello. It is great that Derby Homes can support the council in some of their private homes aspirations, and hopefully will continue to do so. So that's cracking. Thank you. Item A5, housing services, over to the lovely Claire.
Thank you, Chair. 4 items of update in my report to board. A couple of them Maria has touched on already. If I start with the Derby City Council allocations policy, 9th of September, the Council approved the refreshed allocations policy, which was developed by Derby Homes on behalf of the Council. The main change was moving from a 2-band system to a 3-band system and bringing in a corporate initiative band. We do expect that the new allocations policy will make better use of social housing through enabling strategic priorities across the local authority to be responded to more quickly and more effectively. The implementation of the policy is due to commence on the 5th of October. The second aspect of my report was around the Next Steps accommodation programme, which runs on from the Everyone In agenda around rough sleeping, and our bid into the Ministry of Housing and Communities and Local Government for just shy of £2 million to support that agenda. The first stage of the bid in terms of short-term support has been awarded. Our element of that we bidded for was 160,000, and we were successful in receiving 120 of the 160,000, which we were delighted about because we knew that element was heavily oversubscribed. The larger element of the bid, which is primarily around capital investment for purchasing additional units of accommodation for those recovering from rough sleeping, is still to be announced, and we're expecting that announcement any day. The third aspect was, and I think, as I say, Maria touched on this, around the coronavirus extension on the eviction bans, and to make the board aware of changes around the need for now 6 months notice from landlords, except in the most serious of possession cases. And also to update that the cases already in the system, in the possession systems, were held until the 21st of September before they could be progressed. So they will now be restarting in the court processes, but the courts will be prioritising, again, those most extreme cases first. And following on from that, I suppose to update the board again on the work that we've been doing around the private sector in terms of a homeless prevention plan. And I've given some detail there, talking to Maria's point about the fact that at some point the impacts of coronavirus will start to affect, albeit later than we had initially anticipated, the likelihood of, unfortunately, people coming into the Housing Options Service for support around potential homelessness. And one of the main aspects that have been working on, is making sure that we get an early message out, both to landlords and to tenants, through a large-scale marketing campaign in the city, to contact us early. So it's twofold. The campaign will be trying to reach landlords of all tenures to call into the Call Before You Serve service in Derby long before they get to the position of wanting to actually serve notice on their tenants, to talk to us about how we can support them and their tenants to remain in their accommodation where that's possible. And the second arm being a reach out to tenants, again, of all tenure types, asking them to talk to us very early on before they get in the position of having to approach us under the requirements of the Homeless Reduction Act. That communication strategy is due to launch in 2 phases. The first phase launches on the 16th of October, and you should expect to see across the city a high-level campaign on the back of buses, in bus shelters, aimed at both landlords and tenants. And a second phase rolling out in February as we move towards the 31st of March, which is the current timescales for those possession actions to start to kick back in again. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Claire. Does anyone have any? Oh, Lucy, there you go.
Yes, so it's me again. And can I just say, Claire, that I am really excited with this work with the private sector, and hopefully reducing the number of people who become homeless. This is absolutely the right way to go. We need to get people. We need to nip the problem in the bud as early as possible, and so all power to your elbow. I wondered whether you were currently already working with the letting agencies, whether they've all been written to, or whether Derby Homes is being proactive on that, or waiting for them to come to us. And secondly, for people who are failing to keep up with mortgage repayments, which is also coming to an end, whether we're working with the estate agents and banks to see if that is something that we can achieve as well.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Yes, to both aspects. So there is a working group at the moment, a private rented sector recovery plan working group, and within that, one of the aspects is the Call Before You Serve service. That Call Before You Serve service is linking in through various landlord forums, trying to get that message out early. And in terms of mortgage repayments, that's something that's come to us more latterly to the group. So at the moment, we are trying to work out the best way to lobby in that respect. And we've been having some discussions about at what level to pitch that, because we think we need to go into national lobbying as opposed to trying to lobby with our kind of local mortgage lenders. But it's certainly on the agenda, and we're working that through.
Thanks, Claire. Some exceptional work has been done on all of these issues, and I just think you're doing a fantastic job in tackling all of these really, really challenging, you know, issues. So thank you so much for updating the board on all this work, and we're excited to see what the next stages of these are. So please keep us updated on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, health and safety update. Is that you, Maria?
Sean's going to actually do this one for us, Chair.
Sean, off you go, love.
Thanks, Chair. I'll try my best. Yeah, we had a health and safety forum, a virtual meeting this afternoon. Ian chaired that meeting, and at that meeting we discussed the accidents and incidents and the violence and aggression reports, and we're able to challenge the team on any issues there. There's nothing relevant that we need to bring it to the board. Everything was satisfactorily dealt with this afternoon at the meeting, and that was really helpful. Moving on, COVID-19 was also a large aspect of today's meeting, and there's a summary in the report of some of the activities that we've been undertaking. Clearly, it's got a massive impact on health and safety, welfare of staff and customers, and it really has been risk assessment central around Derby Homes over the last few months. We've been producing them for every element of work that we've been wanting to recommence to make sure that it's being done safely, and then monitoring to make sure that the work's being done in accordance with those risk assessments and updating them where necessary. We're also making sure that we're also picking up plenty of supplies of PPE equipment because that's being used to support the risk assessments and the work that we're doing out there, and more orders are going in to make sure that we've got at least 6 months worth of supply, making sure we're planning for the future and that we don't get caught out. Another massive piece of work over the last month or so has been reconfiguring our office locations as well, and the health and safety team have done a fantastic job of removing desks. I mean, I don't know where they're all disappearing to. I think the storage in the mill is virtually stretched to capacity now, and you know, we've made sure that every work location has got a number of desks. That means that people work there can work safely. We've got arrangements in place in terms of one-way systems. We've covered the pinch points in terms of how we arrange the toilets to be used by just one person at a time with signs and so on, and we've got the same arrangements in the kitchen as well. So yeah, it's been a busy time from a health and safety point of view. We've been doing all we can to keep our staff and customers as safe as possible.
Thanks, Sean. That's great to hear. Yeah, no, that's really reassuring. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Sean on this item? Okay, thank you. Sean, are you doing the fire safety report?
Yeah, I am. I'll give you this in a nutshell. You've got the detail there in front of you. I mean, some of this is as a result of the draft building safety bill and as a result of the Grenfell disaster, and there's a real focus on making sure that buildings are safe, clearly, and fire doors and fire equipment, you know, needs to be kept in good order. That's regardless of any draft building safety bill. We have to make sure that that's the case from a compliance point of view. Some board members will remember back in January, we had a contractor carrying out some replacement fire door work at Rivermead House. We weren't happy with the standard of work, weren't happy with the method they were using, and agreed that we'd use our own team to finish that work off. Now, the completion of that work went really well with our own team, but we had to beg, steal and borrow joiners from different teams. If we're not careful, that can have an impact on the bread and butter service. So this report today is seeking your approval for me to establish a small fire safety working team in-house to be able to deliver that work moving forward. With the increase in the number of inspections that we're going to have to carry out, not just to communal fire doors in blocks of flats, and that's all blocks of flats, but also individual flat doors as well. In this almost 2,000 of those that we've got out there, we're going to need to be inspecting those on a regular basis, internally and externally, to make sure the closers are working. That will in itself generate an amount of maintenance work. Now, in January, we also talked about us becoming accredited to a national accreditation scheme, and that was BM Trada, the scheme that we chose to go for there. Just ahead of close down, we're pretty close to completing that accreditation process. We've had the training, we've got people that know what they're doing. We just had to carry out some work to a number of assets for them to then come and inspect us to make sure that we're working in accordance with that accreditation. That stopped for a while, but we're recommencing that now and are looking to complete that accreditation by December. But it's important that I do establish a small team, a team that specialise in not only just working on fire doors, but understanding the way we have to maintain the records for those assets as well. They're as important, if not more important, than gas boilers now. So I'd prefer to make sure that we've got people working on them, only people working on them, that have got those specific skills and understand what they're doing. So this is for a team of 4 joiners, a supervisor, and one of the most important roles in this team is going to be the planner and the administrator, because keeping those records is going to be massively important here. We've already got a £250,000 budget in capital. We've got an £80,000 budget in revenue. I can't say at this point whether the work that we identify through the inspections will be capital or revenue. It'll be a mix of both. It's likely that we're going to need to top up the revenue budget, and that's something that Derby Homes are going to have to look to try and find a way of finding. It'll probably be more than the £80,000 to cover that aspect of work that's carried out by this team. One thing I am seeing out there at the moment is the costs for this type of work is actually going through the roof at the moment, and having our own team will mitigate the risk of those increasing costs affecting us and the cost of the council for this type of work. So seeking your approval to be able to bring this type of service in-house and have a dedicated team specialising in this really important area of our work.
Thank you, Sean. I think it's really important, this, and you know, consideration particularly in reflection of what happened at Grenfell and understanding our obligations in terms of fire safety is hugely important. So I support those recommendations. Mike, did you wish to speak, please?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'd just like to support this wholeheartedly. I think, as you've just said, how important this work is particularly after Grenfell, but also what Sean has said, that the situation we find ourselves in going out to outside contractors at Rivermead House, it just shows how important it is for Derby Homes to take this actually in-house, to have direct control over something that's so serious, so that we as board members can have full assurance that the work is being done properly, efficiently, and more importantly safely, to protect the lives of our tenants.
Indeed, Mike, thank you. Ian, please.
Yes, just I'd also like to support the recommendation and have our own team. I also just want to ask Sean if he's thought about offering services elsewhere. I think the experience that you had at Rivermead with unsatisfactory contractors is quite common in this particular field. Yeah. And I think there will be other housing bodies in the area who will also be having unsatisfactory dealings with private contractors. And I think if we had an established body with a good reputation, we could also perhaps make money from other organisations by letting them work on for other housing bodies as well. So what I'm saying is, I agree with the current proposal, Sean, but I think you should be open to perhaps that being enhanced in future and doing work for other bodies too.
That's a really good point, Ian.
Yeah, that's something that's in the back of my mind. I want to get the team established, find our feet, get good at doing what we do. We'll have to have conversations with the council about doing that, but that could have benefits for both organisations.
Yeah, there are lots of cowboys out there, and any an organisation like us with a good reputation could cream up from all these cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great. Lucia, please.
Oh, sorry. On that same point, can I just put the reason I wrote here, income opportunity, so just what Ian's been saying. But the other angle of this is that if we are doing a good job, we, putting my city council hat on, we want every building to be safe in this city. So if we've got the cowboys out there and we're doing it right, we need to be there offering our services for the sake of people's safety in those other buildings. So I don't think it's just an income thing. I think it's actually a safeguarding Derby thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I take it from the breakout of agreement that we can support these recommendations.
Agreed.
Yes, agreed.
Agreed.
Right. Thank you very much.
Sarah, before we continue, Sarah, can I just point out the time is moving on. Can we suspend standing orders because we've got quite a bit to complete yet?
Yes, thank you. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Marvellous. Thank you. Item 8, safeguarding policy. Are you doing that, Claire?
I think we've got Lorraine Testro with us.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Hello, Lorraine.
Hi.
I didn't realise you were on the call, though. Sorry. Please carry on.
That's fine. Evening, everybody. I just want to introduce myself for anybody who doesn't know me. I'm Lorraine Tester. I'm the new Head of Housing Management. Well, I've been in post just over a year now, so not quite so new. But it has been a bit of a baptism of fire, really, with everything going on. But what I would say is I wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of Maria and Claire and all the senior management team. And just to say that it's been very motivating for me to listen to what everybody said tonight. It's very motivating and inspiring. So thank you, everybody. I'm just going to give a very brief overview of safeguarding before talking about the policy. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. So Derby Homes takes safeguarding responsibility very seriously. We train all of our staff at a level that's relevant to the role, and we provide refresher training every 3 years. So all the staff know how and where to report concerns. We've built a culture of safeguarding across the organisation, and it's not just about safeguarding referrals, it's about how we can also pick up people who are vulnerable and support them in-house, and also through all the services that we can refer them to. And our tradesmen are really useful in terms of bringing information back to us. They're the ones going into people's homes. You can't underestimate what they can tell us. We've got 22 safeguarding champions across the organisation who are chosen for their expertise in some instances, but also their interest, and that they also help staff to be able to talk about issues when they arise. We're part of the Adult Safeguarding Board and all of the subgroups. We play a very active role in that, and I believe that we're well respected, and we're also involved in a lot of the children's groups as well. We're at the moment doing a safeguarding review across the organisation to implement a really good safeguarding framework, and we're working with Tracy Harrison, who's the CEO of Safe and Sound and has got a lot of previous experience working in the police on safeguarding issues. So she was instrumental in helping us to review the policy that you can see before you tonight. This policy went to the operational board. Unfortunately, when it did go, it was when I was on leave, and there wasn't a lot of time between these two boards. From the information I got back from the board, I made 3 updates. There was a final point that was made about the sexual abuse element at 515, the definition. This was a comment that Lucy made, and I have spoken to Lucy, but I did need time to go away and review that, and I have come up with what I believe is a better definition that provides more clarity. Lucy has seen that, but I've not had a chance to share that with the rest of you. So I don't know how you would want me to proceed with that, or whether you'd want to see that before agreeing the policy, or if anybody's got any questions that they'd like to ask me.
So is the point you're talking about different from what's written in the text of the report, Lorraine?
Yeah, this 5.1 that you've got on there around sexual abuse, I have actually got it typed up, but I would have to share it and take the agenda down. And I don't know if that's appropriate in the meeting tonight with us being streaming it.
May I say something?
Yeah, go on, Lucy.
Yeah, I could say I think this was a really well written report. It was easy to read. It's nicely laid out, and it's sometimes policies can be really heavy going, but this one is one that's readable, and I think it's therefore it's very good. There were 3 comments I think I made about it, but I think this version hasn't had the other 2 changes made to it either, in terms of the reordering, and there was something else too. I can't remember what the 3rd thing was, but the basics of it were very similar, and the point about the child safeguarding was clear, just a definition, because it's the current wording says sexual abuse is any sexual activity with a child, and higher up that page defines children and young people up to the age of 18. And obviously you're allowed to get married at 16. And married at 16, any sexual activity with your husband is not automatically sexual abuse of a child. So it was just to define that. And Lorraine has got some new wording, which works really well. So,
did you want me to read it out to the board, the new wording? Would that be useful or not?
Yes, I think that would be appropriate. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So the definition is sexual abuse involves forcing or tricking a child or young person to take part in sexual activities. The perpetrator will not necessarily use high levels of violence. The child might not understand that what's happening is abuse or that it's wrong. They might also be afraid to tell someone about it. There are two types of sexual abuse: contact and non-contact abuse. The abuse can happen anywhere, in person or online, and can lead to long-term mental health problems. And Lucy, I'm sorry if you did. I understood that an updated version had been sent out. So after the original papers got sent out, was that not the case?
It may be that we had two sets of the papers, and it may be that I'm reading the earlier set and not the later one. Maybe something as simple as that.
Yeah, I think what's happened is that there were two copies of this sent out, and the one that's attached physically to the agenda that we got is the previous one, and the other one came in a separate kind of standalone document. So that might be why, Lucy.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's a good policy. I endorse it.
That's great. Thank you. Bob, did you wish to speak?
I was just going to say I've got the my copy did come with the updated version. I think Lorraine's got the words just right, and I support the updated version that we received after the original paperwork.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a very good safeguarding policy. I think it covers all the areas that we need to be aware of, and I'm very happy to endorse it. Can the rest of the board endorse it and agree to the recommendations, please?
Yes, I'm happy to, Sarah.
Absolutely.
Marvellous.
Agreed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lorraine, for coming to present that to us. Really appreciate it. Item A9, self-assessment regulatory standards. Is that you, Maria?
It is indeed. We are back with me. Board members may recall that in May 2019, are you still there? Oh no.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, we're all here.
Sorry, I was having real trouble getting my camera on then, and I thought my system had gone. Right, last year in May, I brought a report to board to give you information about the consumer standards within the regulatory standards. I've bullet pointed them for you in 4.1 to serve as a reminder, but I'm sure that everyone is reasonably familiar. You recall that at that time, I said that I was requesting a consultancy type audit from CMAP to provide some independent validation of the self-assessment that we had done against compliance. They did do that consultancy right at the back end of last year, reported back to me in January, and it was my intention to bring the report in March. I promise you I will not use the pandemic excuse anymore after this meeting, but here we are now. In paragraph 4.2, I've listed the recommendations that came out from CMAP, and rather than any concerns over actual compliance, what CMAP did recommend was that the self-assessment document could have been better summarised into action plans. And that as it stood at the time, there wasn't sufficient ownership, and we needed to rate ourselves as to where we thought we were in terms of meeting all of the standards. Appendix 1 of this report is held in CMIS for you. That is a detailed but consolidated self-assessment, and there is a document there for each of the standards. It hasn't been attached to the board report because of the confidential data within the action plan, but all board members can view it. Appendix 2 is attached to the report, and that is a much clearer summary showing the ratings as judged by myself against each standard and commentary as to the actions that I am proposing that we take. In the vast majority of areas, I am confident that I can give you assurance at this point in time that we demonstrate compliance with the consumer standards. I think we all accept it's inevitable. Due to the pandemic, there will have been slippage in some areas. We know we had to scale back between March and August. We had to suspend a lot of work on our capital programme, but I am confident here today that we've now got systems and processes in place where we will get back to where we need to be, God willing. The slippage that we had in gas and electrical, there has been a remarkable pullback, and Sean has already covered that in his report, and we're making excellent progress in that area. The outcome into the the recommendations here I'm proposing will be in future monitored by audit committee. I've reported them back into CMAP. The actual action plan attached, I'm sorry it wasn't photocopied in colour, but the darker of the rating blocks I have judged as green, but then on the second page there are 3 blocks that I have judged as amber. Now the reason I'm judging them as amber is because I'm judging it in the here and now. And I believe that going forward, post-COVID, looking at community and economic recovery, we do need to review our services, particularly around neighbourhood management and local area cooperation. And there is a lot of work that has already started on what's called the universal offer or the localities offer. So whilst they are amber, I want to term them as amber compliant rather than amber not compliant, but amber in terms of the fact that we have ambitions to improve and develop our services to deliver better outcomes. Similarly, under tenant involvement and empowerment, again, I'm saying it's an amber compliant, but I do feel that our information could be more accessible to customers, and I'm confident that that will be an outcome of the website redesign. Now, before my dog goes mad, has anybody got any questions?
It looks like there aren't any questions, Maria.
I think everybody's worn out, including my dog.
Okay, are we all right to agree the recommendations in the report, please?
I agree with the recommendations, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed.
It'll become custody of audit committee from tonight.
Great, thank you, Maria. Item A10, board effectiveness review. Is that you, David?
It is, Chair. Yeah, thank you. The board adheres to the National Housing Federation's Code of Governance 2015 and has done for the last 5 years. And as part of that, we have a board effectiveness review once a year, usually at the September board meeting. So this is obviously that report. For this year's, what I've proposed is that there was a draft National Housing Federation updated code for 2020 that came round literally only last month, and had a quick scan down it, and have put some comments through this report in terms of three particular areas where they have expanded the role of their code. First one being equality, diversity and inclusion, and I've set out there at 4.9 what we've been doing, but as Maria was saying earlier, there's always room for improvement still further. In 4.10 and 11, there's the issue about accountability to residents, which echoes very much what Maria was saying, a sort of amber compliant area. And the third one on 4.12 is changes in the sector risk landscape, all of which actually going through that we had already got in place. And that sounds a bit complacent, but I think anybody checking those 8 points would find that we've already got those at least covered. Whether adequately or not is a different matter. You can't get rid of all risk, of course. So in terms of an updated risk register and an updated equalities and accountability to residents, those three new areas all chime exactly with our own values, etc. So in terms of recommendation, there is I'm suggesting we move the 2015 to the 2020 code subject to its final publication, and obviously bring a report on that when it is finally published. The one area that did cross my mind as controversial is set out at 4.6, which is that they are suggesting that non-executive directors, which you all are, the normal maximum period for a non-exec director should be reduced from 9 years to 6 years. You can probably tell from the tone of my voice I don't personally agree with that, but we have already got Ian exceeding the 9 years because of our unique position and his particular skills and filling some of the gaps that we would have otherwise. And what we can do is, when it comes out, is to adopt this new standard but with non-compliance, but obviously more members of the board would be caught by the non-compliance than currently is the case. So I just wanted to open that up for any comments in advance. Unfortunately their consultations are already closed, but it's not something that I didn't think I thought we ought to have a conversation at the board to say that you've considered that option. So my recommendation is obviously for you to discuss that issue and come to your own conclusion.
I see. Thank you. Lucy.
Chair and board members, I think this is actually quite an important paper, and I think that we should probably be having a bit more of a discussion on most of the bullet pointed items that you've highlighted, because I think they should be challenging us, and they should be we should be giving them. We should be making sure that we are taking cognizance of them as things are changing. And I was actually going to suggest that, given the time, we ask for this paper to come back at our next board meeting and see if we can put it higher up on the agenda and give it some thought at that occasion. So that's what I was going to propose, Chair.
Okay, Lucy, let's keep that on the table for a second. Ian, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I did, Chair. What I wanted to say was, if you look at paragraph 4.6, the last sentence in paragraph 4.6, as David correctly states there, our constitution overrides the code, and the board can respond to this element in several ways. So my suggestion would be that we actually go along with this, we approve this, but rather than bring it back, defer it and bring it back to the next meeting, I think we should take our time to consider issues in this, and if meantime we wish to go the way of our constitution rather than the way of these recommendations, we have every right to do that, but that does not stop us in the coming year looking in more detail at various aspects of this code and seeing if we wish to deal with it in a different manner.
I understand, Ian. Thank you for that. Shan?
Yeah, yeah, I am off mute. Yes, I was just going to say that if there is some detail that we need to look at, we could actually do that in governance committee, so that some of the actual work is done in governance committee with the recommendations brought back to the board, so it doesn't take up the sort of more board time. But I think also that when David was going through it, we are actually kind of have got quite a lot of it in place, or have got plans for it in place as well. So yeah, they were just my options really.
Thanks, Jan. That sounds like a great idea. In that vein, then, could I propose that essentially what we do is sort of stick with our constitution as it stands at the moment, but agree for this to go to the board for consideration, and then bring it back to the main board for further work and proposals that can be done on the various elements that are contained within, because I think Lucy is right that it needs more and more thoughtful consideration. So can we agree that as a proposition?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yep, happy with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
happy to refer it to the Governance Committee, Chair. Thank you.
Marvellous. Thank you very much, David. Okay, item 811, Derby Homes meetings.
That's the usual pattern of meetings, Chair. Subject to any comments that anyone's got, we did try and check with the council's date, so we've tried our best to avoid any clashes, and hope we've succeeded.
Chair, the only clash I've got is May the 27th next year, which clashes with planning.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I don't know whether that will be before or after our AGM, and I don't know whether I'll still be on planning, but assuming I am, there's a clash there.
I mean, given that it is kind of quite far in the future, Lucy, and given that we don't know when the council's AGM will be, and or when you will be on the other committees that may clash, I propose for the moment we just leave it as is, and we can revisit it at another time if and when we've got more information. Is that okay, everyone?
So I think that it would be easier to change it now, because we've got time to plan the change now, and we won't know until very shortly before the meeting what the situation would be, either for myself or any other councillor member of the board.
No, I fully appreciate the problem that you're raising there, Lucy. The only problem with that, though, is if we change the date now, are we cognizant of every other council meeting that is going on a, at the same time as we want to propose our board meeting? I don't know whether we have that information at our fingertips, do we?
I think this was in the papers that we approved at our AGM in July. Was it June, July that we had our AGM? So we can go back to those papers.
And if I could just bring a little, I'm actually on holiday then, so the change of date would certainly benefit me as well.
I'll take that one away, Chair, if that's all right. I mean, what you can do is approve the rest, and we will look at the options that you would have for perhaps the 20th instead.
If I could also mention that May the 27th is half-term week.
Is it right?
So I may have difficulty with that too.
Right.
Okay. So are we happy to agree then, subject to the 27th potentially being changed, and sort an alternative with the rest of the dates?
I think if we're going to get maximum attendance, it may be well worth looking at a review day.
Yeah.
Just one thing just occurs to me, Chair. If we're still doing these meetings remotely like this, it probably doesn't matter. Even though if I was somewhere else, I could still I could attend a virtual meeting. I just couldn't attend a meeting in London Road.
Okay, Ian, thank you.
Ian, I can't be in two places at once.
No, I understand that, Lucy. I was a comment.
Even virtually.
I understand.
No, that's fine. Can we agree to let David take that date away and look at that date then?
Yep, go for that.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item A12, appointments to committees. David, is that you again?
Yes, Chair, thank you.
Are we able to do this one?
Well, I'm going to take you through it one by one, Bob, if we could. Obviously, we've got a number of committees, some of which may be affected by our earlier discussions. So if we can start with members of the Audit Committee, they are limited to people who are not the chair of the board, the operational board, or chair of the Governance Committee. The current members are Ian and Lucy, and as far as I can see, there's absolutely nothing stopping you reappointing them. And I'd also welcome any further nominations, because we always like to have 3 if it's possible. So there is a further vacancy there. But if we could take these one at a time, any comments on those nominations?
Thank you, David. I'm perfectly happy to agree Ian and Lucy continue on the audit committee. Is everyone in agreement with that? And is there another volunteer?
I'll support the committee as it stands, yes. Obviously,
I agree, yeah.
And obviously there may be further opportunities to add, depending on the outcome of whatever happens later on. So thank you for that. Just on the audit committee chair, it is the role of the board to appoint the audit committee chair rather than the audit committee itself. And Ian is the chair and has expressed an interest in continuing to do so.
And why wouldn't he? He's great at what he does, and I recommend.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy for him to continue.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
Martha?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you very much.
Great. Next.
Similarly, with our representative on the CMAP board, Ian is not only our representative on the CMAP board, he's also the chair of CMAP. And has expressed an interest in continuing, if that's okay.
We can't deny him that, can we?
I was going to say that's a done deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Done deal.
Yeah.
Then we have the easiest of the lot, which is the governance committee, because you're all members anyway. So that's really just for noting. 4.7, chair of governance committee, again, role of the board to appoint the chair of the governance committee. Jean is the current chair and has expressed an interest in continuing.
Jean is good. Jean is good on governance, and I would recommend that we retain her on governance.
I agree.
Thank you.
Now we come to the operational board, which is where the complications start. So
you've got double complications.
Yeah. So what we normally do is have 3 board members appointed, 1 from each constituency, 1 tenant, 1 council, and 1 independent. So we already had 2 nominations for the council board member, but obviously with Bob perhaps being chair or not chair, we're unable really to resolve the tenant board member. Unfortunately, with Finbar's passing and Jen not being here, there wouldn't be an alternative anyway. So the options as I see them, and obviously it's for you to determine, is either you could appoint Bob in the event that he doesn't become chair to be operational board chair, or you can postpone that particular role.
Right, what do board members think about that?
I would propose that we reappoint Bob in a temporary thing, because there will be an operational board before we resolve the chair at the next board meeting. I think it's important that Bob continues in that role and until we make a decision.
Okay, that sounds like a sensible approach, Mike.
Sarah, just a point of governance though. That at the next operational board, we would also normally be the operational board appoints their own chair.
That's correct.
So we would have to probably not do that at that meeting and wait until.
Can I make a suggestion? Is there any merit, when viewing the circumstances, for having an extraordinary board meeting just to discuss the issue of the chair?
Quite possibly. Maria, did you wish to come in there?
I think Bob read my mind. That was exactly the suggestion I was going to make. I think it is appropriate, and I'm so relieved that we have just appointed a chair of governance, because I was actually thinking that we're in a very difficult position. But Jean has been reappointed as chair of governance, so I think it's appropriate that Jean and David should meet to discuss an extraordinary single, well, probably double, maybe triple item, extraordinary meeting to deal with the appointments to these positions.
Well, I mean, Jackie's just very helpfully outlined that the next operational board meeting isn't until December and the next board meeting is in November. That notwithstanding, I actually think it would be beneficial for the board and for Derby Homes to agree a way forward with the chairs' positions and vice chairs of the overall board positions as soon as practicable, to be honest.
I absolutely agree with you, Sarah.
I agree, Sarah, yes.
I think everybody would agree with that.
You can't
leave it in abeyance to December.
Yeah.
I need a boss.
Yeah. Well, on that basis, then, can we agree that we hold a extraordinary meeting to deal with the chair and vice chair positions of the board as soon as practicable, however we can pull that together, and then I think on the operational board issue, going back to this paper, David, that you're presenting, if we so we don't have to revisit this again unless we do and things change, can we agree to appoint Bob in the event that he is unsuccessful in his application to become the chair? Is governance wise, is that
you can do that should you wish to, or you can postpone. Those are the two options, really.
Okay. Well,
Chair, can I just suggest? Jen had to leave the meeting early because she was poorly. Yep. Alan also had to nip off. Just in light of the amount of discussion we've had tonight, I think it would be fairer to hold off on the whole decisions to allow the other two board members to participate.
Okay, Maria.
So
I would just accept that and have this as a holdover item for our extraordinary meeting.
Yeah,
best.
Can I make a suggestion, Chair? And that is that given what is going to be the main substance of the extraordinary meeting, it's important there is consultation on dates, because clearly all 8 current members of the board need to be able to participate in the meeting.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and I think that's really important. And in addition to that, I think it would be important to understand what would happen in the event of another tie, because it cannot clearly go on in perpetuity.
There needs to be a plan B.
Yes, there needs to be some form of, I mean, God forbid we toss a coin, because as we know, that's what happens in the council chamber in council elections. If it's a tie, after several recounts, you toss a coin. I mean, I wouldn't particularly want to see us do that, but clearly we do need to find a resolution if the vote is tied yet again when we come to reconsider this. So can we task you with that, Maria, please?
Well, cheers, Sarah.
Right?
Yes, you certainly can. No, let's leave this on a positive note.
But at least Sarah has clarified a possible solution if we still have the same outcome.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a very unappealing prospect, tossing a coin.
It's just like penalty kicks, only more of a chance.
And absolutely. And I always prayed I would never have to face that when standing for election, and thankfully I never have. But I mean, we need to be looking for what would happen if we were to tie the vote again. It's a very sensible thing to do, I think. Yeah. And if we're in agreement with that on the item 4.8 going back to the report on the operational board, we'll defer that decision to be taken in consideration alongside the other items when we come to the extraordinary meeting.
Yep.
Okay, is there anything else you wish to add to this, David?
No, that's fine. If we're postponing, and I'd forgotten that we'd moved to quarterly operational boards, so the move to December is does give us plenty of time to consider that.
Yeah, great. Okay, excluding 4.8, then can we just agree to the rest of the report and the recommendations contained therein?
Absolutely, totally, yes.
Thank you very much. Item A13, David.
Yeah, thank you. Subject to Lucy's earlier additional declaration of interest, the list is published there. Obviously, we'll add Lucy's additional item into the formal register, being a member of the Derbyshire Pension Fund Committee, I believe, and that's so that all of you know the interests of each other. Yep.
Marvellous, thank you. Are we happy to note that?
Yes, please, yeah.
Great, thank you. And A14, David, disclosure under the Insurance Act.
Yeah, there's no new ones so far, Chair. Obviously, some of the conversations we had earlier might be if we actually went down some of those roads, but at this point we've got nothing dramatically different that we'd have to declare to our insurers.
Marvellous, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on that, or can we note it and agree?
Noted and agreed.
Thank you very much. All right, item A15. Maria, did you want to just...
Maria has just managed to get back into the meeting. I've got gremlins in the...
goodness me, well that was good timing.
It wasn't, because I'm a bit out the loop again now.
You didn't miss much. So,
that's what they all say. That's all right. What? Help me! I've lost my papers.
It's all right. Don't panic. We're just on A15. We're just talking about the forward plan.
Page 103.
To that, really, Maria?
No, there is nothing I want to add to that report.
Marvellous. All right, we'll note that, and then we'll move on to Part B, confidential business. Part B1. To consider a resolution to exclude members of the public during consideration of the following items.
Okay, Sarah, can we just stop there? I think we were going to pause the broadcast before you went on to the
I think I have to read that bit out though, don't I, before we do?
Yes, you do. Okay, sorry about that.
Yes. It's all right. That the Derby Homes governance arrangements, members of the public be excluded from the meeting during discussion of the following items on grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of confidential information as defined in Standing Order 20.2. Thank you to anyone participating at home. Just let us know when we're